and like, he's smart enough to like know where we put things. And so but overall incredibly cute and wonderful.
It's terrible. It's like, I'm gonna do just one photo.
Oh, of course.
I have to restrict myself. It's him just having a tantrum and holding down low.
Hey, yeah.
Oh my
He's just not
God.
having
Hi, everyone online.
Just like,
Oh my God.
and I think because he wanted to go get something, I'm like, I gotta go to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah. I'll
tell you how I feel about that.
I saw a tweet. Hey, Holly, how are you?
Good, how are y'all?
I saw a tweet the other day. It was like, you wake up in mid-December. There's a fresh sheet of snow on the mom's made cinnamon rolls. You don't have any responsibilities or roles, but you were 3, so you were blind with rage. Yeah.
So, let's look at this agenda if you guys want them. Sorry,
It's okay.
No, you can have that, and then, but we do have a lot to do, so if you guys want to kind of just get started, we'll,
Sure, it's after 12.
Yeah, so right now. So we are ready. We have Joanna and Tracy and Michelle and Nick online.
Are we ready to record?
It is going already.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our last Food Access Working Group. Today is August 11th, and we want to welcome everyone. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And then we'll start out by introducing ourselves. I am Regina Polite.
I am RJ Tapalis.
Monica Petrella.
Dahlia Gumbacco.
Allison Reiner.
Savannah Bennett.
Okay, you guys go line.
Tracy Preston. Oh, sorry.
Change
Oh,
the.
we can't hear.
I'm gonna change our speed.
I'm Joanna Cade.
I'm Tracy Person.
Okay. Tracy.
I'm Michelle Ureña.
We have a little technical difficulties right
I
now.
can almost hear you. Okay. I think it's my computer, not here. Can someone say something again?
Can you guys
Hello,
hear us?
Joanna.
Yeah, Michelle's talking.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, here they go. Okay. Try again. One of you guys say something?
Hello, hello.
There we go.
All right, we got you now.
All right.
Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself again.
Sorry. All right, we have Michelle, we have Tracy, we have Joanna, and we have Nick. So we're gonna go ahead and keep moving.
Okay, yeah, because we have a lot of
Yeah, we're about to come today. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Working on the mic.
So we introduced ourselves and we all said welcome. Well, I said welcome. Now we'll talk about our deliverables and old business, and then a recap of our last Healthy Neighborhood Store event. Okay, who wants to go with the recap? Sorry, I wasn't here, so Michelle, why don't you take that one?
A recap of the last neighborhood store event. Okay. So I believe the last event was, let's see, let me just remember the date. I believe it was Thursday, the 23rd. We were in front of the Healthy Neighborhood store. I believe it was Savannah, Joanna, and I, and for partial Holly as well. It was definitely a slower event, just because I think because of the heat, and because it was in the middle of July. I don't know if summer school was in session or not, but it was definitely a lot slower pedestrian wise. Um, uh, I don't know if anyone else would like to chime in.
I mean, the people we did talk to, I thought was valuable, but it was really, really slow. Like Michelle only needed to make one batch of her cooking demo, and we like barely gave it all out. But I think it was impactful for the people that we did talk to.
Do we have any data on how many people we did talk to?
I don't think so. Michelle, do you know like how many samples you prepared?
Definitely about 10 to 15 samples, I would say.
Okay.
Hmm
This event was a little slower than our.
Yeah, it was definitely slower. And I do want to say the day before, it was open house or not open house. It was like a back to school bash. and people, the community was, they stood in the heat for a long time. And I think, they could have still just been kind of drained by that whole ordeal.
Mhm.
And I also had a homegrown Hillsborough table at the back to school bash. And we got a lot of people to sign up, and we got a lot of interest there. So right now we have a total about 10 sheets of letter of supports, signatures. So being at that back to school event was impactful as well.
Great. Michelle, or Joanna, were you able to upload those letters, like a scanned version of those to the drive yet?
I have not. I do have them right here, so I will do that. Um, it was just difficult because I got to do front and back, so I got to do each one individually.
Okay. All right. Well, get those uploaded as soon as you can so we have that data in our drive.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And you do have the letter of support which I had given you, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, let's move on. Okay, number one, determine if the George Bartholomew Recreation Center would be a better location for the August, September event. And the address is 8608 North 12th Avenue, 33604. Joanne, can you speak on that?
Sure. The Harold Hart, who kind of is over the two recreational centers in our area, said that would be a great location. He said we would just have to pay for the staff, and we would need at least two people there. However, I've got some conflicting information. I was told that we shouldn't have to pay for staff because of the organization status. So there's still, Mr. Hart is still researching that to see if we have to pay anything. But he said it's a pretty much open schedule. They just kind of renovated the space, and I was actually able to take a look. And it's a nice space, nice open space. There's a full kitchen, and so we could pretty much, we'll definitely have the space for the community to, depending on how you set up, we have the opportunity to have many community members come in. If it was like a kind of like a drive-through event, so to speak, we can get a lot in and out. But even if you were to have a sit-down meal, you could probably, I didn't get the capacity, but I'm sure to hold at least 100 people for sure.
I don't think we're going to pivot to a sit-down event anytime soon. But
Okay.
we just wanted to bring this up because Joanna, you had mentioned that this might be a better location because of how hot it was at our last event and how few people
Yes.
came through. And it is literally just right on the other side of the school, so it's not far away. And just might reach a little bit more people if it's like a well-trafficked type of rec center.
Yeah, does it have foot traffic?
It does have foot traffic. It's on some students or parents have to walk that way to get their child to or from school. And it is also a rec center, so it actually has a little play area outside. So it definitely does have the foot traffic. It also has a nice sized parking lot. Um, so it's very accommodating.
Okay. So do we want to move our last two events to this other location to have indoor, or do we want to just stay where we've been now that school is back in? We might see more traffic because the proposed time was 3 to 5 again. Up to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I would rather be inside
Yeah.
just because it was brutal in
Yeah.
July. It was brutal. And I think with the right advertising, the YMCA is always helpful with giving out flyers. They were able to allow me to put flyers in the office. I'm also able to give flyers to both rec centers, the stores along waters, and
What days?
just the resource center. They get a lot of foot traffic as well, and we put flyers in there too.
Hmm. I agree with
So
Joanna. I agree. And I think the population that we're probably searching for this letter of support might be better found in that rec center as well.
think it'd be wonderful for the summertime situations. That way, there's no issues for rain. It gives everything that we do have that's already limited, seasonally available, kind of a better chance to withstand the temperatures and any of that stuff. And I like the idea it's more of a central point for the community on that part as well. As we get into the fall months and spring months, I feel we can definitely do it more outside because it'll be better suited weather-wise with more abundance. And I feel like at that point, we'll have a much stronger production schedule for most of the gardens and production spaces. Feel like that's just my 2 cents from what I've seen over the last couple of months on this.
How much in our budget would we have to support this, to go inside versus outside? That's the thing, right? Savannah?
Yes.
We've worked with rec centers before, like and done events at rec
And they
centers,
don't
and they
charge.
never
I know,
charge, so
I
that's
know.
weird to say that.
I do
Yeah.
think that's an important next step is Joanna, if you want to get clarity on are they going to charge and if so, how much? Because funding is going to be hard. We have our fiscal deadline soon, and so we won't be able to be as flexible. So even if you do have money left, it's not just as simple as that. It's that we have to process it through the well, we have to report it to the county, and as the fiscal year comes due, that stuff all gets much tighter. So the sooner you can get that information, the sooner we can see if it's even a possibility.
okay, I can get that by the end of the week for sure.
Great.
In the event that they do charge for the event, there's another space right next door to Sulphur Springs Elementary. That's still what we're talking about, right?
Right.
It's the United Way Suncoast office. That should be a free space from what I understand as well. And they do some food work out of that space as well. So it might pair nicely with what I haven't visited in a long time, so I don't know exactly how it's operating right now, but what I understand to be is a free space resource for the community. So that could be like a backup too, if you really want to be inside.
Joanna, what's the access to this rec center from that pantry, from the school's pantry? Because I know a lot of the people we were getting in May and June were coming straight from a shopping pantry, and it was promoted by Meg to go to our store. Would it be harder for them to get to the rec center?
No, it wouldn't be any harder.
Cool.
Not
I
at
think that
all.
would be a great way to kind of funnel people after they do their shopping. They go to the shopping or to the event over at the rec center. And if it's indoors, people will probably stay a little longer versus try to gauge whether or not it's worth it. If parking's better, people aren't just going to look at the parking and assume there's nothing there and then drive by. So it can't hurt to try, especially if we have one more before September, to just go see what the reaction is.
Okay, so I would just also get with Meg to confirm the pantry days for September and circle back with you all to make sure we can kind of have it the same day.
I want to say it's Tuesday, but I can double check.
Okay, okay, so we're gonna wait for you to get back with us, and then in the meantime, we're going to vote on whether we can accept it or what. I don't know where.
We confirm the dates for
Okay.
times first.
Okay, well, there's two, proposed dates. August the 27th from 2 to 4 and September, the 24th from 2 to 4. And these are proposed dates because last meeting we didn't have enough people to approve it. So now it looks like we have enough people to go ahead and approve the date. So is this good with everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
For August?
Yes.
And keep it consistent with what we've already been doing. So August, good?
Does that time work with if we do at the rec center, is that like a highly trafficked time?
Joanne, you would know?
What's the time?
2 to 4.
2 to 4.
Okay.
Yes, I would definitely be available for those times. I'm double checking with the YMCA or the pantry right now to see what days they're offering pantry to the public. So the pantry, I want to say closes at 4. So if the pantry closes at 4, I don't know if we want to change those times or not.
So would we want to be, when would be, you want us to be available after the pantry closes or before?
I was definitely during those hours, and if someone doesn't come till 4, closer to the cutoff, do we still want them to come to the rec center to see what we're offering?
I don't think it has a really that big of an impact on,
Okay,
yeah, like they're not always our target. I don't think that's like we should be pigeonholing to like we only need to focus on people who are coming to the pantry.
okay,
Like I think that's great to get people coming from there, but I think if we end at 4 and they end at 4, I don't think that's a big deal.
okay. All right, well then, yeah, I think that's a great time.
When does school end up?
School is out at 1:45 or 55.
For those kids.
So on Monday, yeah,
Early out.
This is on
1:45.
Thursday.
So if it's Thursday, they get out at 2:45.
Okay.
Okay, so the time will give us an hour ahead to set up, like we've been doing.
Yeah.
And we'll be ready by the time they get out.
Yeah.
So we agreed to August and September, right?
Yeah.
Okay, those are the confirmed dates now, right? Our last 2 events, right?
Is there any opposition?
Okay, no opposition, so we'll move on. Okay.
I'll just add for in terms of if there's any like services being rendered, that you guys get the invoices or quotes in advance of that 24th day, because we'll have to make sure to process those before the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30. So,
Get them early.
yeah, just make sure those invoices are in hand so that all money gets out.
Okay. All right. We'll make sure everyone, our producers, that everyone knows that. To get those invoices in. Nick, you here in Dahlia? Is he? Oh, he's on.
He's on.
Okay, next on the agenda. Number 2, that would be review total signatures, get upload to Google Drive. Okay, we already discussed that. You're gonna do that, right, Joanne?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so we're good. Okay. 3, budget review. Okay.
I just put that on there in case we were going to need to pay for the rec center to kind of look at it. So far, we have about $2,600 left. So I think we're good for August and September. And if anyone had any other, I think we're good.
Can I ask Savannah, what's the usual budget per event? Like how much is usually spent per?
Yeah, so in July, you spent $695. In June, you spent $662. And then in May, we spent $1,253. I think that had to do with the porta potty. And then the kickoff event, we also spent $1,782. So the last 2 events have been between $650 and $700. So that fits within your budget. If you spent another $700 for both, there would still be left over.
We ran out of bags, right?
Oh yeah, we ran out of bags. I don't think we have time to order
We
more.
ran out of what kind of bags?
The bags you
Oh,
ordered.
the tote bags?
Yeah, yeah, we did run out of bags. I don't know if
They
there's
have
something.
time.
Yeah, they took quite a bit to get printed. I don't know if there's something
And we have 2
we
more.
need to maybe purchase a different kind of bag, a non-branded bag to put things together.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. So
If you use a
And we-
local printer, you might be able to get them to
we
run.
did do a little. Yeah, it's I don't know, maybe a couple weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
And we still have some of those grow bags
Okay, we have grow bags.
that we used last time.
If we're hoping for higher volume, I would hope we wouldn't. We would run out of those.
Okay.
So maybe
You could do paper bags and stamp them. Like,
Yeah.
like a cute stamp.
that's a good idea.
That would be a bigger volume, right?
Okay.
Paper bags.
But I think a grow bag, I like the idea of a grow bag though. Just so you
Dual
know.
purpose.
Yep.
These are some of the grow bags we have from Feed America.
The colorful ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
Can we get some more of those?
But
We
you know,
actually
this,
gave you guys the last ones.
Okay, so
Oh,
okay, all out.
You guys helped.
Yeah, deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cute, yeah.
They come in like little like tip sheets too.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
can we gave Silver Springs a lot of them too.
Okay, so we need to order some type of bag, maybe not the same ones, but either a paper bag or more grow bags. Something that we can have in the next 2 weeks.
yeah, something sustainable would be
Who's gonna do
awesome.
that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Who's gonna do that? Who's gonna look into the bags and provide a quote?
Can you tell me what you're putting in the bag before they reuse them? Sorry, I think I missed that.
Like they were just reusable, like canvas tote bags to put the produce in.
Oh, okay. Can I reintroduce the bags that I was talking about before? They're kind of backpack bags that I found on Amazon.
And they were like $20 each, I think, something like that.
Let me look at them again.
Yeah, because
I
we're
don't
gonna
think
probably
they
need
were.
at least 100.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much they cost at the.
How much does it need to carry? We
And we
have
don't have, right, we don't have.
No,
we have
Flyers,
inflatable
bags.
bags. They're not as big as those typical grocery bags. They're probably like half the size, but they're like this big. I can take a picture of it tomorrow. It's meant for kids, but they can reuse them.
I think that would work.
Yeah.
The bags that feed to the bags.
What was that?
They're feed to the bags.
No, they're not branded, so it's just nutrition information on it. They call them like farmers market bag with little marker because people can like keep track of their groceries.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
But
nice.
it's small. So
I
that's,
think the grow bags were smaller.
That's-
People were like,
they're bigger than the grow bag. So so let me see how many we have. We have some in the warehouse, I know, but I think in the storage closet, how many be able to pull them.
Awesome.
Okay, so.
If you are able to have that, I can check with our lead program. They have kind of similar small little
Okay.
bags. I can see how many you can definitely.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the ones that I talked about before. I'm seeing some for $9, but I'll look a little harder to make sure that the ones that I was talking about are actually price perfect and not expensive.
Okay.
If we
And-
did the paper bags, do you guys have a stamp already?
No.
We do have a Homegrown Hillsborough stamp, do we not?
The passport ones are this
Oh,
big.
they're, yeah.
Yeah. And they're really tiny.
Yeah.
They're really this big and they sound
That's like
so.
a stamp in there, so I feel like that.
Yeah. You would want a stamp that
Yeah,
like
like
that
that.
big. Yeah.
I think it'd be cute and it's a good
Yeah.
reusable.
Well, yeah, and I guess if it's a generic Homegrown Hillsborough, then we could probably pay for that. But if you wanted to have food access or healthy neighborhood
We
store,
don't have to.
yeah, it just doesn't matter. Well, we don't have anything yet, so you'd have to still go quote it and all of that. Just we could. I mean, it's all kind of the same budget, but yeah. I bet you'd be $30 to find a big customized stamp.
Mm.
And Amazon has them too, like for a quick turnaround.
Alright.
And you can just do a single ink, like blue or whatever.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see how many RJ has and then see if we need to
Right.
order paper bags and a stamp.
Like a plan.
And I just got a text from Kathy at the YMCA to circle back about the pantry days. Pantry days are now Monday from 3 to 4:30.
Okay.
We can still have them marketed Monday, and they can come out after school.
Okay. So just like give them flyers on Monday.
Yeah, and she does a good job. She had some kind of handout that put all the dates for the summer, so everyone that was going to the pantry was already knew when the dates were coming.
Okay.
So if we have a flyer for this, I can send it over and she can market it.
Mm-hmm.
Can definitely do that. I do think our last flyer was only through July, right? Yeah.
Okay,
So we need
We can
Okay,
update
make
the flyers
it-
on it.
Yeah, I can do that.
we
Okay.
update it. And then I can send them to print, and Joanna, you can pick some. I can send them to print so you can take some to distribute. And then RJ, do we need to print it for them?
She
or
can
do-
print it.
Okay, so just send the file.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if I print out a bunch of them and give it to her, it might be more helpful, but we'll see.
That's fine. So you know if I need to send it to print or not.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah,
I'll
Holly,
put the next 2 dates on this.
awesome. Update, and then when
And
Holly
then
will sit down.
if you print enough for the next couple months, you could just do that one job, so we don't have to put in another order or anything.
Okay, how many should I print?
I guess it depends on what we're doing. I'm not quite sure what you guys want to. Is it going to be the same setup as normally that we
Yeah,
normally
I don't think we're
have?
changing anything besides maybe the location. It should still be all pretty much the
Okay,
same.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I would say if it's for August and September, I would say 200
Okay,
because I even after the August event, I go back and redistribute more.
no problem. I'll order 200 for you.
I mean, if that's too much, I don't know what the budget is. I know you said what was left, but how much do you normally spend on printing?
It's usually about $80 for 100, so that would be $160. I think that fits fine in the budget for both months. 'Cause I
Okay.
usually do it once a month anyway, so
Okay. All
I
right,
think
perfect.
it fits in with the 2 months.
Okay, super.
Great.
Okay, are we done with the budget and the bags? And so we have a plan, right?
Yeah, we just need to know this week where
Yeah,
we're gonna be
Right, Joanne.
so that we can, yeah.
I would just encourage you guys, if you're not already, if you should track the samples, something that's helpful is just to count out how many you make, and then that way it's an easy way to know. But I think it'd be important to know how many people you're reaching at each event. So thinking about a way to, either have somebody tallying or just count the trays that you put out, and then you know how many are taken. But in terms of like planning for next year, let's say, and you're trying to figure out what time of the day or whatever, what season of the month, like knowing how many people you're reaching at each seems good data.
All right, so we need to come up with a plan to count, because we're doing different stations and then people are, that's part of the problem.
Some will come to your station and not to the other
Right,
one.
right, so we
Yeah,
can,
but the stations are serving the same thing.
no,
What's happening? Like one's giving out bags, and then one's
Like produce,
Yeah.
they're doing the
flower stuff, grow, yeah.
the same idea, right? Count how many, like whatever you're giving away at each station, just count how many of those things are at that station.
Okay, so each station. we
Yeah,
should
count
count
each
it.
station. Yeah.
That's a good
Because
point.
they might even find out that some people are drawn to the food, some people are drawn to the produce.
And that's
some
what
people are
happens, right.
Yeah, and you'll know which, if you had to do one, which one would you do, right?
Could we maybe guide people to a specific table just to like check them in?
But
Not
we
even
tried to do that.
Yeah.
We tried to start them
Just
at the
depends, yeah.
registration table in the, right when they
Yeah, to
come
get
in.
the sign thing right away, yeah.
It might be easier though if we're doing it inside, because it'll be an entryway. We can just have that table
That's
at
the
the
first table, I
beginning.
guess.
Yeah, versus
Yeah.
how we had it just kind of
Right.
spread out. So that'd be easier to do.
Depends on where we're at.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes it's not fancy. I've seen a big Florida Blue event with like 800 people, and they're literally just chasing people around, clicking. Just because that's the best they can do, right? So just to get an idea.
Do you want to try like a little passport stamp thing where they get a stamp and then they got to go to the next one to get their stamp, the next stamp?
That's a great idea, yeah.
I think we might be overwhelming them with holding stuff if we're asking them to get a stamp. Because I feel like even now, like we are handing them a lot of stuff and people are just like they're putting stuff in their bag. They don't know what we're handing them. They're just throwing it in their bags. I think a passport might be too much for them to push through for like a 3-station spot. I don't know. Anyone else?
There's been only 2 events left.
Yeah, only 2 events left. Yeah.
We had to start it out with it. It would have been a good idea, but
Maybe a little.
I do think we need to start our next thing
Wrap it
soon,
up.
so if we can wrap us up in maybe 2 more minutes. Sorry, Teresa, you can finish your thought.
I was going to say, how many volunteers do we have, depending upon that? Like you can have somebody that's ushering people to the next place.
Depends how many people are gonna be
Yeah.
there. Yeah, we've had very mixed events. Like our last one was with 3 or 4 of us, and then before that we had a bunch of people. People we didn't expect showed up too from City of Tampa.
That's
That was
right,
great.
yes.
If we knew to have jobs for them, we would have been more prepared.
Volunteers with them too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, next on the agenda is new business. Michelle, I'm just gonna keep on going because they need to get this,
That's what the next
this
item.
agenda. Okay, which is the working group evaluation led by Homegrown Hillsborough team.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, as Regina started this meeting, she said this is the last food access working group meeting for this term. So first of all, well, yes, in September, we're having the social, which will, all the working group meetings are going to be combined into one working group meeting, which is going to be that feedback and social. Savannah posted that on the platform, so you should have that on your calendars. It's really important that you plan to attend. We tried to plan it for the end of the working day, so that way it doesn't carve into your personal time. But so as we wrap up our first term cohort, we kind of are changing the name sometimes. We want to hear from you. And, you know, as we said all along, this was our first time doing this. And so I think there were moments in the last, 18 months or whatever we were doing, that we were very much laying the track right ahead as it was all coming together. And so we want to allow some time for some feedback. So how this process is going to go is, who saw the post that I made on Sunday? No, Regina saw it? Okay, and then I can't see the screen anymore. Okay, yeah, so a handful of people. So actually, Holly, can you hand out those papers that Savannah has next to her? So me, Savannah, and Dahlia have spent a lot of time reflecting on, Regina's so prepared, reflecting on some of the kind of like big like headliners that we want to take time to review. What we don't have time to review today, we desperately want your feedback on. And so we've created a Google form that will be able to collect that. Even if we do finish kind of discussing today, you still need to complete that Google form because there's like a few additional questions. It won't take long, but we need, and so we'll ask for your name so that we will know if you completed it or not. And we'll be chasing you all to finish that if you haven't. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through these different kind of segments of the topics that we want to review. How we're going to do it is we're going to quickly recap what was done this time. We have some suggestions from our point of view on what could be done, but we really want to hear from you on what you would like to see. So this is either for if you want to continue being a working group leader for the next term or for your future successors. And so if you didn't have time to review it today, then this might be a lot of new information. But like I said, when we leave this meeting today, that's not the end of the collection period. You will have the rest of the month to continue to contribute your feedback. So what we're going to do today is we have a pretty simple PowerPoint, if you want to, someone wants to pull that up, that basically summarizes what is on this handout. You all online can't see it. It is on the Working Group Leaders platform post.
Some more people online are not in our working group leaders.
Okay, yeah. Well, then so the slides will help do that. So the first thing was the determination of the working groups. So how we determined the working groups for this cohort was that at the end of 2024, we asked all of our Homegrown Hillsborough members to participate in a survey at the end of the year. In that survey, we asked them to prioritize their top 3 topics out of 5 options. And those 3 topics were food access, food production, and economic development. So that is how we decided to create these 3 different working groups. And we had about 55 people complete that survey.
For our benefit here. Oh,
yeah.
Just put their little faces there.
Okay, so yeah. So what we suggest, which does not have to be what you all suggest, and in fact, we don't want you just to agree with us just for the sake of convenience. We really do want this to be an honest feedback process. And if you don't feel comfortable saying it in this group form, then we ask you to please submit it in the online aspect of it. You won't hurt our feelings. Brutal honesty is how we make our things better. I think we all know that we all love each other, and working together has sometimes just bumps, and so we want to iron those out to make it better for the next group. So what we would suggest is having one large working group. So instead of having 3 different specific topics, having an at-large Homegrown Hillsborough working group. And there wouldn't be a specific topic. It wouldn't be food access or food production or economic development. It would just be the food system working group. And you as members would advocate for the thing you care about. So obviously everyone here kind of all coalesced around food access. So in a at-large working group, it would be up to you to make sure that food access is getting the recognition that it needs or that you would like to see. And one of the reasons why is because, meetings take a lot of time, and we ultimately need 15 leaders bare minimum. And having one working group might be able to be more accommodating to schedules. So that would be our suggestion. We want to hear from you all. Do you like 3? Do you want 5 working groups? Do you want no working groups? So at this point, we're going to open the floor. We do have 9 of these to go through. So I think if we want to spend a few minutes kind of chit-chatting, working off each other's suggestions, and then we'll kind of keep it going. But once again, the online feedback form is where you can continue to drop your thoughts.
And then Savannah, do you want to drop that form into the chat right now for our online people? Just because maybe you want to take notes in there as we talk through this and get your own ideas going. But that is a place that if you don't feel comfortable sharing anything out loud, you can always share it there.
So what do we think about number of working groups?
Okay, I can go first because I've already done it. My suggestion was, since there was so much overlap from the groups, meaning the other, one large working group makes sense, because Dee and Georgia's doing some of the same stuff we're doing, and then the other people. So let's just do one big tent, and like you said, no names, just a food system group. So that's my take.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have thoughts on 3 versus 5 versus 0 versus 1 versus 9?
Still thinking, but I think there's a strength when there's smaller groups brainstorming, especially when they have that passion. I do agree with Rachel here. That there is, like, I think not being connected to the other working groups of knowing what they're doing, there's a missed opportunity for us to collaborate. Thankfully, like, we had other side, like Georgia and Nick and other people come here to learn what we were doing. So being together more often would be definitely beneficial, but maybe in those larger working groups, there are breakout sessions where people are talking about like food access or other things, because I think in the larger group, especially like my personality, let louder voices prevail, but when it's like this, it's a little easier to be a little bit more confident.
That's really good.
I kind of agree with that. I feel like sometimes one big group, there's too many cooks in the kitchen and lots of great ideas, but maybe not decisions. But within there, still having like the priority areas, and then like you said, maybe like a working group or breakout, and people can rotate and see what each group is doing. Because I think we had like only 1 or 2 meetings where we were seeing where the other group, and I think it would be more beneficial to do that. But then having it as like one meeting with food access and then a separate meeting, that would be a lot with the schedule. So I agree that it's still like the hierarchy system of like having a one over, but have the umbrella.
And that is what we at one point thought is, well, what if we have like a delegate from each working group go to a bigger working group, but then it's like, but meetings, right? How many meetings can you all reasonably tolerate? And we'll be honest, attendance is an issue and timeliness is an issue. And so because we had a similar kind of thought. So that's really good feedback. And we both have written that down. So you guys are the first. We're going to do this in every working group. And then in that September social and feedback, we're going to present the aggregated thoughts. I don't even know if at that meeting we will like end with a solution, but that will be a time to have that.
I feel like that's this theme. We're usually the first ones.
You are, because you're the first. Yeah, you're the first meeting, so you're the first Tuesday or whatever. So, all right. Anybody online have any ideas?
Can I say that as a newcomer, it's been really helpful for me to be involved in the small group because I really don't know how it has worked out in the past. And so it is a lot of meetings, but it has helped me kind of ground down and understand what this work looks like. And so even if they did decide to have one large meeting, being able to like have breakout rooms or to get to know what this group is doing helps keep somebody who's new that wants to do this work from being very lost.
Great, that's a great suggestion.
I don't know if this was specified when you talk about one big group, it wouldn't necessarily be 15 people.
No.
It would be a smaller, large group. Okay. I can use that.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that we also, and we heard this feedback like anecdotally throughout the process, but the distinction between a leader and then just a working group attendee, and how do we onboard attendees and bring them on, like those are things that we just don't know. And so if we were to have a working group with 5, we'll talk about this later, 5 paid members, then we would need a process for what does that look like with the network at whole. Like we'll kind of keep continuing this conversation. And you'll quickly see how this can grow a whole life of its own. I'm not kidding. We probably spent 40 hours working on this document. Yeah, just because we wanted to be inclusive. And so please use the form to submit any thoughts that you have between now and then, or anything that's not covered here. Before we move on to the next topic, do we have any kind of closing thoughts about one working group versus smaller working groups, things like that?
I would just say as a co-leader or a co-chair that when I went to the original retreat back, was it a year ago? I thought it would have been helpful to have those check-ins with the other co-working chairs from the other working groups. So I think it does make sense to have one larger meeting so that we're all on the same page, just from that perspective.
Yeah, that's that. And once again, we kind of heard that, but then anytime we tried to actually get something on the calendar, we were like, well, then that means that there, so it's just the meetings, yeah.
And there's nothing to say that there couldn't be project teams within the working
committees,
group, right? Where then you are still, advancing one goal maybe as a project team of this larger working group too, right?
Okay. Sorry, I'm finishing this note.
And Savannah, you probably get to just share the screen with them and just keep their faces here.
That's what I was going to do.
Okay, cool. All right, so application and selection of working group members. So how it was done was that we opened applications for working group leaders, and we selected leaders based on their preference and our discretion being me, Savannah, and Dahlia. We had 27 people apply, and we needed to select 15 total leaders. We can share our evaluation process with you all, but I don't think we need to get into the weeds with that necessarily. But ultimately, we tried to create a standardized process for evaluating fits for these working groups. And a lot of it also was we asked a question, if you do you want to be a co-chair or a member at large? If you're not a co-chair and not paid, do you still want to be a leader? And a handful of people said no. So that also made it so that when we were trying to identify who went where, it added kind of another layer.
And can I also add that was never going to be the ongoing process. We wanted it to be a vote after that first year, but because that first year we were, launching it, we had to identify the members.
Yes.
But in theory, the second year would have been a democratic process to elect those people.
And that was always the intention, is just for us to kind of just get it started. But then what our suggestion is that we would like to ask current working group leaders to either self-nominate, so if you'd like to still stay a working group leader, or nominate somebody else for the next term. And so those nominations will happen at that September social and feedback. We will ask for nominations, either if you want to self-nominate, if you want to continue, or if you think somebody else in the network would be a really good working group leader. So we are going to open nominations, or this is what we would suggest. Nothing's permanent. Open nominations for individual through a platform post in October, and close the nominations at the end of October. Then we would open voting on November 1st, and then throughout the conference, which is really a huge summit of all of our Homegrown Hillsborough members, as people are checking into the conference, we'll also be asking them to vote for working group members. And so in theory, we should have 50 votes,
in theory, 120.
Yeah, ideally everyone will vote, but if we can really kind of operationalize this voting process, and then working group leaders will be announced members would be able to vote through the last day of the conference, which is Thursday, and then Wednesday through Wednesday, and then on Thursday we would announce the working group leaders for the following term. And then this is kind of a separate topic, but in December, terms would start, but there wouldn't be a meeting. It would be online training. But we can talk about that in a moment. So as far as application and selection of working group members, what do you all think that process could or should look like?
I like what you guys have.
You like it?
Yeah. And I like that it gives people opportunity if they missed on the platform to vote in person.
Yeah, I'm trying to get multiple opportunities to.
You're already here.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, welcome to the conference. Go submit your vote. Yeah.
And hopefully the person that is running, let's call it, is also there, right?
Yeah. So you can go and meet them face to face, and
Is somebody who's getting nominated, would that potentially be somebody who doesn't want to be?
We would ask. We'd say, you've been nominated. Do you accept or reject it?
Do you guys know how many people are going to be, I guess, within the group wanting to participate in like a rough estimate?
We don't know that. We don't know if any of you plan to continue or what interest looks like. It will also be depending on how we structure them. Are we still looking for 15 leaders amongst 3 groups, or are we looking for 5 leaders amongst 1 group?
I was going to ask if there's going to be like 2, because maybe you could do the nominations and have multiple top 2 people that you want to nominate.
Yeah, well, you can nominate willingly. You can nominate as many people as you want. Yes, and you can self-nominate. Yeah. So if Regina wanted to stay and on this leadership, then she can self-nominate. And then at the conference, people say, hey, I see that you're running for leadership, and she's like, yep, I did it last year. I really loved it, and I feel really confident in what we're doing now. And so that would probably work to her favor because she has been involved. There's really no limit. To how many nominations, but we will reach out to the person and say, you have been nominated, do you accept it?
My other question, I don't know if it's on here, if we're gonna touch it on later, but we had a treasure.
We can talk about that later.
Okay.
We can talk about that later.
I was like, is that part of that voting? Okay,
yep. So anybody online have ideas about application and selection?
Well, I would be interested in just knowing what the application looks like. And since I'm not, I guess I'm a member.
Yeah.
Would I be invited to the September 25th event?
We would love to have you there. Yeah. You have kind of a special role because you have really been a service provider. And so you have kind of been contracted to fulfill the working group's intentions. So and we probably should have had our other working group leaders. Yeah.
And also at our last social, correct me if I'm wrong here, we had it closed to co-chairs at the beginning, and then we opened it up to all members. Yeah. Posted it. So it was a social that was open to anybody who's engaged with working groups. We just had the first hour or so dedicated.
I don't know if that's what we're doing for this.
Okay. So but we could potentially do that. We could, a little bit of a social afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And really, Joanna, the difference between the working group leaders have just more mandatory expectations basically than you as a service. So but yes, we'd love to have you at the social, and we will bring you into the working group leaders platform post, and so that way you can add it to your calendar.
Okay, thank you.
And then as far as if we were to go this nomination route, we don't envision an application.
Yeah.
Because an application means somebody has to review it and somebody has to create a rubric and so that was meaningful work that we did the first time, but really the nomination and then the person-to-person campaigning would be how the working group leaders are decided.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Unless you think an application is worthwhile.
Is there a criteria?
I mean, that's to be determined. Do you think that there should be criteria? Ultimately, like a nomination is the criteria. And then if you self-nominate, you're self-nominating. So there's no criteria right now the way that we envision it, but do you see the need to have criteria?
I do, because
Okay.
I think that when you have a criteria, you get people that actually can decide whether that's an obligation that they can fulfill versus somebody who, oh, I think that might be a great thing. And then you have demands or expectations and they can't meet them. So I do think like there can be like a small set of criteria that people have to
And then how would the
think about.
review process for that? Well, like, would there be a committee that of like former working group leaders that are reviewing that? What we want to do is we don't want people to think that we are gatekeeping. Like we would like to not be that review criteria just because I think that sometimes there are us as these as staff versus you all as the network that we serve. So like what do you think that could look like, that application review process?
I think that if you don't want to gatekeep, you can maybe put one person on that has served, but maybe isn't part of the old guard, if they're not nominated, that is, and they can be part of that review process with you. And it doesn't have to be a big one. It can be, what hours are you available? Like, is your time open? Do you have the ability to do this extra work? And I do like the question of like, would you serve if you weren't paid? That doesn't mean that people shouldn't be paid, but it does speak to like how dedicated to this are you? And there are certain people who are dedicated who can't afford to do it. So like, that has to be taken into account too. But I do think that you want people who are going to be timely, who are going to dedicate their time. And, that kind of makes people say, well, yeah, this is what I wish to do. This is what I'm going to do. Doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to be
Okay, so what
intense.
I'm hearing is you're thinking more of criteria in terms of the function of the job. So that could even exist as when they accept their nomination, they're accepting it based on the standards of being able to commit to monthly working group meetings, 10 hours of monthly commitment, et cetera, more of the logistical elements.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So less of
also,
like
which
but like less of like a describe your leadership style and why you would be a good member, but more of this position entails monthly meetings and work outside of those meetings, blah, blah, blah. Like, is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah. And is this something that you feel that you can do? Because this is a commitment. This is what that looks like.
Yeah, cool.
And then if you're putting everyone in like one big group, would you specify which group you are advocating for? Production, access?
So if we go with the one big group model, basically the goals and priorities go out the window, right? And that new group would reestablish what their goals are as a group, so that there'd be ownership and a bit of they could self-determine the path that they want to take. So no, we would throw out the food production, access, working, like economic development kind of as overarching topics. That being said, and part of the reason why we think the one group would be effective is they have so much overlap, right? That ultimately when we talk about a homegrown Hillsborough food system, we're talking about increasing food production, increasing food access, increasing the economic development of our food system, right? Or within our food system. So, but this one group model we're not going to pre-prescribe. It has to pre-prescribe the goals. There'd have to be a process to reestablish some goals.
And
So would you have committees?
Potentially, yeah, it could be up to that leadership to decide how they want to structure the committees or project leads, or
yeah. And what's kind of like fun about this air quote fun is that like boards and committees and governance like already exist, and so like we can like look at best practices, but also because every community is different, there are different ways of doing this. So like, for example, I have personally attended webinars about food policy councils that talk about the pros and cons of having specific seats for a specific role versus not. So for example, if you have a food policy council or a food system network working group, and you want to have one farmer, one dietitian, one economic development professional, the con of that is that it can narrow the people that can apply for that, basically. It narrows the scope. And so sometimes committees, like actually the Pasco County Food Policy Council literally had this problem where they just could not get somebody to fill one of those seats because they asked every dietitian they knew, and the dietitian just didn't have the free time to do it. So that's like, if we are searching to have specific seats, then that might be hard, or we can just have an agreement that like we have to operationalize it somehow. And this stuff we don't need to, like, we won't find the solutions today. What we want is to hear from you all, and then we can go and hit the books and see what best practices look like and see what other communities have done. But yeah, there's trade-offs to everything. That's just how life works. So
Yes.
Before we move on to the next topic, do we have any final notes about application and selection of working group members? All right. So the next thing that we want to talk about is how we onboarded working group leaders. And so when in 2025, I think applications were opened in April. Opened in January. They closed at the end of January. Selections were made by mid-February, and then we had a mandatory in-person 2-day-long retreat at the extension office. And at that extension office, we did things like take headshots. We discussed leadership styles. We talked about what community development is. We talked about what collective impact is. We had a session on grant writing, and then we had a session on creating STAR goals. And STAR stands for specific, time-bound, achievable or attainable, and then realistic. Yeah. And so in this room, Regina and RJ were both there. Michelle was there online, and I think that was it. So if you all kind of want to start by, well, actually, I guess, okay, and our suggestion would be that we still do think some kind of leadership onboarding is very important. Now we have these online modules that we've created for food system foundations and homegrown Hillsborough foundations. Those didn't exist when we did the first leadership retreat. So we would ask our newly elected working group leaders to watch those, as well as there are other food system leadership online modules that already exist through other food system groups that we could watch. And so that would set some kind of standard foundation, but you could do it on your own time throughout December. And then we'd have a 1-day in-person training to kind of really grasp what those online modules talked about, and then to do the other things like headshots, person to person, hanging out, and anything else, but basically taking it from a 2-day to a 1-day in-person retreat, and then to have the online trainings really kind of talk about the things that we would have talked about on that second day. So with that being said, what do you all think? Regina? Yep, I love it. We love an A+ student.
Okay, since I've done a lot of these modular type training things, I hate them.
Oh, okay.
They bore me, and I don't do them. So I just rather be in a room where there's people that's from other organizations with expertise that support a stronger food system. That includes producers, environmental specialists, experts who can deepen our understanding of the core food system issues. That's me, I'm just saying, because I just don't want to do those modulars, and I procrastinate with them. But if I'm in a classroom and I'm there, then you got my attention more so. So that's just me,
Totally. We appreciate that.
No problem.
What else?
I think a lot of people on this call have done our online modules, so
Yeah.
that's good to it's good feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your feedbacks about the online modules or just that strategy? And I didn't mean to just ask people that were at the retreat. It's just that those people they knew about what it was like, but we'd love to hear from other people about how they would like to be onboarded as well.
I have done the online work and yeah, I have done it. I am totally fine with it, but like Regina, I do like to be in person. And I do think that the conversation deepens the knowledge. So I can go either way, but I prefer to be in person.
Cool.
The 2 days was tough. I think I only made it to the first day, and then I wasn't able because we had a big work thing. And I noticed that the room is a mixture of like people who you're, 8 to 5, they have to call PTO. Some people are on some kind of break. So I like that you guys have kind of flexed it to be a little bit more accommodating to the different groups who have more time, who have less time. So I can see the modules being super helpful. I haven't done them yet. The one day I did go, it was super informative, but like overly informative.
Yeah.
Like food system work is completely over my head. You're talking Klingon to me. So something to make it more like experiential. I think I went to an event where you guys were at Fat Bean Farms that we were invited to before I joined the working group, and that really put a lot of things in perspective. So I think that's part of the onboarding. It would have been nice, like learning about it before getting the acceptance into the thing. Because I think getting accepted, like, wonderful, you're here, let's do the training. I'm like, whoa, I'm way over my head. I just know more about like health and nutrition. So kind of the lead up to prepare somebody, but also like, hey, you got to go to Fat Bean Farms for an hour, at least before you get into this, see if this is the work you really want to do, because this is what it is. Not to say that would have deterred me, but I would have felt a little bit more
It
prepared.
did. I mean, you're here.
Yeah. But I definitely would have felt more prepared for that in-day session to like connect the dots.
Yeah.
Because like food resource, food management, the 8 parts or 9 parts of the food system was a very new concept to me.
Yeah.
So getting people out was.
There's also in the chat, Tracy said, could it be hybrid?
Yeah, could it be hybrid?
So this is my opinion on hybrid. I think they're worse. I think they're worse. Like, I mean, even just like the technology, can you hear me? People have their camera on and off. Like, I would either like, I very much think that in person is gold. I mean, we could do hybrid, but my personal experience is that they can sometimes drain more than they can build, just because of all the reasons why I mentioned. Do you have technology issues? Distractions, whatever.
Well, if you're setting up an experience to be virtual, then it can be really effective, right? And then you're sharing the screen all dynamically, and there's breakout sessions, and it can be very dynamic. And similarly, if everybody's in person, you can present that same dynamic environment there. But I agree with Monica that when you go with the hybrid, even just when we walk into this room, right, the people here will get an extra 15 minutes of personal time, versus the moment you personally, when I get off a Zoom call, if I'm at home, right now I'm checking if my dog needs water, getting on to the next call, doing a quick email, right? You lose that last little bit.
That being
I think
said,
I was meaning hybrid in a different way. I was thinking, going back to what RJ was saying, if you have like a preparatory online piece that kind of alerts you to or gives you a foundation or gives context for what you might then experience when you go in person. So you're not going in cold and feeling like, okay, this is way over my head. I know nothing about this. I was wondering what that might look like.
Since you have taken the foundational courses on HHU, do you think those are satisfactory?
I can honestly say, Monica, having looked at your lovely face for all the times that I did, by the time I met you, it gave me a little bit of a different feeling about you and Savannah. I kind of felt like, oh, so now I'm seeing them in person, and I felt like I had context for the things that you were giving me. So I think that's what I was envisioning when I said hybrid. I was thinking, okay, so I did 2 of your online courses, and for me, knowing that I prefer to be in person, I think that they were very personable. It allowed me to take the time to absorb the knowledge. But then by the time I was with you, it was very different. And so that's how I was seeing like the possibility of kind of combating what RJ was talking about, where it's like, oh my God, I have no context for this stuff. This is way over my head. You're speaking Klingon to me. Now I'm in the room with you, and I feel like, okay, so I have a little bit of ballast for this to land. So that was just my experience.
Totally.
Yeah, I took a couple modules of that they were foundation modules. I forget
Yeah,
which
so
what
so yeah, we only have two, and I know for a fact
Oh.
that both Tracy and Joanna have done the two. So those are the ones we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, I thought they were very useful to me, and they helped prep me for the work and the conversation.
Okay, that's
Same,
good.
Joanna.
And for the record, I'd love it if I wasn't the only person in them. It's just trying to coordinate recording and getting someone on location. It's very, very hard. But we would love to have a committee of HHU people that do their own modules. So
Did anyone here participate in the Iowa State Extension food leader training that we ran at the very beginning of Homegrown Hillsborough?
yeah, I don't think so.
I think I may have for a minute and then I got off or something. I think.
It was in person.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm thinking.
The fact that of every group, because I'd love to know different voices, different faces.
Yeah, and I think we might have an online version of that. But yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so before we go to the next section, any final thoughts about onboarding leaders or honestly members too? Like what does joining the working group look like?
How long are those? I haven't done either of the modules. How long are those?
That's a good question. How long are the modules? I think they're an hour each, maybe.
I think it'll be 2 days.
Oh, like
Yeah, there's an hour of
stuff.
videos.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there's little videos and then there's like little quizzes. And so I think like the videos, we really did try to limit them to be like 5 minutes or less, but there's 6 of them for the sectors. So that's 30 minutes. And then, but that's just the 6 sectors, right?
Yeah, I broke them up over 2 days.
Yeah.
That's not that bad. That was my only question. I was like, how long is that going to be dedicated to? But if it's only 2 hours, then yeah.
Yeah.
And that's only if you consistently do it.
2 hours.
Not if you take a break and then come back 2 days later.
Yeah, don't do that.
You can do them 5 minutes at a time. We would encourage it. All right, so the next kind of segment is determining goals and strategies for the working groups. So how it was done was that our working group meeting started in April, and we used April and May to create the goals and objectives, and we tried to reference that STAR goal template. And so what we would suggest is spending time reviewing other food system plans and start with those goals as a starting place and adapt them to our community. So there are, I would say, 100 food system plans throughout the United States. Some of them are at the city level, some of them are at the county level, some of them are at the state level, some of them are at the regional level. But there are many people have paid many consultants to go through a very formal, long process to create a food system plan. And we think that it would be great to spend intentional time looking at those plans and then basically trying to yank a few of those things and then model them or modify them to fit our community needs. So when we first proposed that, since then, I have gotten an email about a webinar that is soon about that exact thing. So I linked some of the resources, so when you all do have time to look at the PDF, you can see, but there was quite literally resources about developing food system plans and considerations for getting started, and it has a checklist, and it basically says, have you found other plans that do something similar? And so using these existing resources to make our life easier, basically, because what we felt like, I remember I was at the food access goal setting, and I remember it being very much like blank canvas, like, and also that being said, because it was our first meeting, I think everyone was a little bit like, what do we do? Like it was an overwhelming first meeting, but it had to happen because we had to have goals to set our direction. So that would be our suggestion. What do you all think about goal setting and determination of strategy?
I like that we're referencing some kind of existing research or any of your data. I think when we were coming up with our goals, it just felt like everyone was kind of pulling from their own experiences and expertise, which is good, and I think that's relevant in certain aspects. But when it comes to goals for the community, it would have been nice to reference either a county or city current initiative that was happening at the same time as what we're trying to work on, and then that could align with any other projects or activities that are happening with those entities. And then if there's potential funding opportunities, we could do partnerships too.
And that, like, quite literally is this checklist for developing a food system plan. I'm just going to kind of quickly skim over some of the things. There's an agreement on the need for a plan. No overlapping plans are in progress. And that today I got an email from the Florida Department of Health about their health and social committee, and we do have overlapping stuff. Like how can we integrate these groups, right? Your group or coalition is familiar with and active in the region. There's capacity. Roles and leadership structure are clear. There's trusted facilitators. There are many food system projects already underway. Key stakeholders are collaborating. Data is collected. Existing data highlights priorities. Funders have been identified, and you've consulted with others who do similar work. And that is quite literally, you call other people that already have this plan and you say, hey, you wanted to build a food hub in 5 years. Did you do that? And they go, no, it turns out it's really hard. Or they go, yeah, we did it in 2, So yeah, as far as goal setting, do you have any thoughts?
I know it took us a lot. We spent a lot of time, trying to figure out what our goals and objectives was going to be. And with something in place that you can just follow through, then that would be, that'll cut down a lot of time. So you can implement, what you want to do, what you really want to focus on. So I agree. We need something, that we can really focus in on that's already, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is what I'm trying to say. And everyone won't be all over the place. We'll save time, and then we'll be ready to implement the project, basically.
We did something similar with USF's Future of Food Think Tank, and they did like a resilience hub, and we kind of had the whole group, because it has specific work groups, but the whole group came together. So I guess my question is are we going, like, the plan for what you guys have envisioned, and also what our feedback is it setting these goals and strategies and as like a whole work group, and then setting like action plans in each small of the work groups? Is that
so?
That's what I'm thinking.
Our goal, Hillsborough staff goal, is to set our leaders up, or set our members up for success.
Okay.
It is up to you all to define what success looks like. So if trying to collaborate with the future of food is one of the strategies, that's great. We are not going to set that strategy. We won't want you all to set that strategy. So, And
I'll just add in, we're hoping that if we did end up going with this one group goal, there'd be more capacity.
Yeah.
Right? And so that there would be, like this call right now has, there's like, 4 people online, there's other 4 people in the room, right? If you don't count Savannah, Monica, and I. It's one big group. You almost assume immediately you have 15 people that are potentially engaged. Maybe not, right? Mm-hmm. But then you can have committees, then you can have people focusing on one goal and the 3 goals you set, right?
So somebody would be the future of food delegate, and their job is to go to those meetings and report back to the larger group.
Yeah, so then I like how you guys have it, maybe doing it as like a whole group and like looking at all the food systems and different ones, because if you said there's 100, so then, each one can do it, and then going from there and doing like the actual strategies in the work group specific.
And I will say that one of the things that can get tricky is the fact that we are Hillsborough County, and let's be honest, most of our work does happen in the city.
Yeah.
And so for partners that have different jurisdictions, how do we collaborate with them? I think it makes sense that most of our work happens in the city, but I know that people would like to expand more into the county and more of East County, South County stuff. It's just a capacity issue.
And having that representation, right? Yeah. The other reality is the people at the table. If people at the table moved us in that direction, we'd go, right? Yeah. If you saw Echo came to these meetings, they're in Brandon, right? They're in Valrico. They just opened up a facility in Sassa, right? If they were here, we would be there, right? And so it just comes down to, it's still going to be the priorities of the leadership.
Yeah. No, I definitely like looking at it as at the what is already going, so we don't have to reinvent the
Yeah.
wheel and adapting it.
Which isn't that different from the healthy neighborhood store idea, right? That is
Right.
something that's going on at the national level as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I think, would just put more emphasis on the market research around, other groups doing that.
Any more final thoughts on goal setting strategies, things like that? All right. So the next kind of topic is meeting attendance requirements and expectations. So we required working group leaders to meet in person with 2 excused absences and 2 remote meeting options. If we were remote, we asked that cameras were on throughout the meeting. We asked everyone to arrive on time. We tried to enforce a policy to track attendance and tardiness, but it added another step for us, and we ultimately weren't really able to follow through on that. The penalty for not meeting these expectations would be that you are not eligible for continuing education funding. So that was what we proposed. What we would suggest is that we still very much believe that in-person meetings are the most valuable, and that we will require them to be at least minimum of 1 in-person meeting
Or an in-person
component in the meeting schedule. So in-person is where magic happens. It doesn't have to be a working group meeting. It can be a social, but something to get people in person, and you have some kind of attendance requirement associated with that. We suggest policies surrounding attendance that promote accountability and professionalism. So something that could happen is that each attendance is a point. If too many points are deducted, then working group funding will be impacted. So some sense of accountability to the mutual good that we are all committing to being somewhere on time, fully attentive. With, life does happen, so you do get excused absences. We can accommodate for virtual options, but the gist being in person, on time, attentive. Thoughts? Tell me.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me put on my glasses here. My suggestion is once these issues of excessive tardiness and attendance have been addressed by HH, you guys, the working group chairs, vice chair, whatever you want to call them, in the future, must be formally notified. The co-chair should receive a brief operational data update confirming, 1, the concerns was identified and addressed, the corrective action was taken, any expectation or follow-up steps for the working group moving forward before funding impact occurs to the working group, such as finding a replacement member for the working group. That's what I think should happen before any cuts should be, considered if this problem, continues, because then you're talking about cutting the funding for the group with the behavior problem of someone else, when we, the working group, can just find someone to replace that person.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So if you patch it before, that's a good idea. Yeah. Anybody else?
Just the in-person, for me, if I have a full-time job, I wouldn't be able to make a meeting in person. So I don't necessarily think I should be penalized for that or not be considered for certain events or funding if I were to need it or apply for it.
Do we have some say as to when the meetings are, so that if there are people who their schedule doesn't necessarily coincide, it can maybe be after work or something like that, so it can accommodate more people?
We didn't set these meeting times. The original working group leaders did.
Yep. And so they're varied. So yeah, they've set I think one group was like 5 or something like that.
No,
not
According
anymore.
to Supply.
Okay, I thought there was more.
Well, originally there was a teacher on the food production working group, so they needed to meet after school hours got out, so they can
That's what it
accommodate
was.
that.
Yeah.
But then we also have people who said they were not willing to meet after 5 o'clock, so they didn't end up adjusting the schedule.
Yep. And I mean, so this is something that all community work is a victim of, is that when you have people with full-time professional jobs, actually really all of us, I mean, you're retired, but like we right now are all getting paid to be at this meeting because it's part of our full-time job, versus somebody who is doing food system work as either a side hustle that they hope to grow, as a hobby, as a volunteer thing. If they during the day are working as an accountant, then coming to meetings. Janine is a great example. Janine has taken PTO to come to some of our events because she works for Tico as a marketing manager, and Tico did not approve her time, during her professional day to be part of this. Whereas some of our other members did get approval from their bosses to be able to be here. So maybe evening meetings are the solution, but that is up to the working group. That we will not set those expectations. If people want to meet at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays, we will support that however we can. But like I said, this is not unique to us. This is true for all community work.
Because I mean, I'm self-employed, so unless I'm helping deliver a baby, I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's why our suggestion is truly an in-person component of the meeting schedule. Like, we see the value of hybrid working groups, like a hybrid environment of a working group, but we just think at a minimum there must be some in-person component, because we lose a lot of quality work if it's strictly virtual, right? But Tracy, to just fully answer your question, the current leadership established this schedule, and that would continue to be the case.
Okay.
And we're not talking about people who we know in the group that have other obligations, and that someone may be taking maternity leave, someone may be so we're not talking. We're just talking about someone just committed, and then they're not committed.
Actually, Eileen's a perfect example. Eileen is during the day, she's a nurse, and then I think you guys basically made this schedule around her availability. Yeah, because on Tuesdays during the morning she was free or something like that. Yeah.
So, okay.
That makes sense.
What about enforcing attendance? Does anyone have any other thoughts around enforcing attendance?
Enforcing.
I'm definitely a culprit of all these objections. I've been late, I've missed classes, with notice, without notice, I've been virtual more than twice. So it's hard to speak up on something like this, but I don't know, like when rules are enforced, it's because they have to be, because there's that accountability, which we understand, like limited PTO or specific PTO is a thing that organizations deal with. I think it would be good, or my suggestion would be leaving up the accountability part to the workshop chairs instead of like Homegrown, Hillsborough. Because the chairs would understand what like the case by case is. I think Regina's comment about the individual versus the circumstance. I had to go to a couple of these while I was on maternity leave, and it was a weird conversation to have like with my wife. But it's one of those things where it's like, if they want to be involved, but we don't want the attendance to be a barrier for them to being thing. And not to say that you guys have been unfair. Like, you guys are very reasonable, and Regina and Michelle are very communicative. So it wasn't anything where it was a barrier, I would imagine, for other groups. But that could be a potential reason why somebody doesn't, but also maybe that's a filter.
Yeah, and we did have a working group that almost had to fold because it was an issue.
Oh, the whole.
Yeah. And so you guys actually have done a really good job at meeting a lot of those requirements.
Credit to Regina.
But Regina runs a tight ship, and it works. And this is also something that like organizations that are successful do have these policies. So like my husband was a volunteer board member for the local radio station, and they have these policies. And then because of it, they have productive, successful meetings, and they're able to accomplish their goals. And the whole point of these is to accomplish our goals. It's just that we believe part of our job is to set you all up for success. But I do like the idea of having the chairs, or maybe future chair, vice chair, decide what that policy is. Yeah.
And that could potentially cycle or change, or they could add to it.
And that's kind of aligned with the idea of a value-filled contract. So like if everybody agrees to it on the first day, then that's your contract, and then you're held accountable for that too.
All right, any final thoughts on that before we go to the next one? All right, we're on number 6 out of 9, so we're getting close. So term length, this is gonna be, I think, a pretty short review, but we designed these to kind of be 2-ish years. But with this first one, we started in March and it was 17 months till the end. This next term will start
December.
Yeah.
So if we went with our proposed, we would vote in November, start in December.
Yes. And the reason why we believe that having basically more than 12 months, more than 1 year, is because it does take time to get into a flow. It does take time for people to kind of get familiar with the different people they're working with and the styles and all of that. And so what we think is that if you only have them be 1 year long terms, then the first 2 months will be gobbled up by getting everyone kind of situated, and then the last 2 months will be gobbled up by evaluation and nominations. And so that really only leaves 8 months. And then we also have December in there, which is really just a hard month because of the holidays and, whatever. So we do believe that having like as close to 2 years as possible. So what we have suggested is a 21-month term. So going from December 1st through a whole year, and then most of the next year through the end of September. And the reason why September is important is because it's aligned with the fiscal cycle. And so when we are budgeting for stipends and working group money and all of that, it's aligned with the fiscal cycle. So what do you all think about term lengths? Are they too long? Are they too short?
Maybe we have like a check-in, at that year mark, just to see, hey, how's it going, kind of thing. And if you need to like swap out, because sometimes I feel like putting that on someone, and I feel like our work group is great. So I don't know, I can't do that. But I'm saying maybe like from what you guys have said with the other work group, just doing like a check-in at that year mark, and if it needs to be like swapped out or something like that, like RJ could step in, but keep it within that like work group and kind of have like a restructure, if you will, like halfway through. I don't know how.
And that actually is something that other boards do. They'll have basically an alternate. And so it'll be usually just like a normal person that comes to meetings but doesn't have a leadership role. But then in the situation where somebody is leaving for maternity leave, then you have that person step in as an alternate. And then Denali do have voting powers. They do have decision making until so-and-so comes back. And so creating that. But that also means that person needs to be trained, but that's a good idea.
We did do a midpoint review this past cycle as well.
Yeah.
Before you were with us.
Yeah. It's just right after you, or right before you joined, yeah. Anyone else? Oh, we lost people.
Does anyone think 2 years is not enough? Just throwing it out there.
I think it's a perfect amount of time.
Okay.
Do you think that 2 years is better than 1?
I do. I think that 2 years gives somebody a chance to actually continue whatever grounded work they started, number one. I think that going back to what you said about not wanting to gatekeep, I think when you give somebody 2 years, that gives somebody else the chance to kind of come in, learn, possibly move forward to leadership. It keeps it fresh. It keeps it moving. So those are my thoughts on 2 years. And I like the 1 year check-in, the how am I doing or how's it going? Because that does give people the chance to maybe even say, like, okay, what we thought you were going to bring or what I thought I could bring is not matching up with what the result is, not in a negative way, but sometimes people do need to reassess or move forward or move on. So I think that that's real. So I think 2 years is perfect.
Cool. All right, final thoughts on term length? Cool. leadership roles. So Holly brought this up earlier. So how it was done this time is we established a co-chair structure versus a president, vice president structure. And in theory, it's like more egalitarian, but really I don't think it would make a difference to have a president, vice president structure. Other roles were established, but we never really operationalized them. So secretary, okay, yes, the secretary did have to post the events on the platform.
And they did notes.
And they took notes, okay, yeah. But what we would suggest is creating a more structured definition and practices, like best practices for the various roles. Consider adopting a chair, vice chair structure instead of 2 co-chairs, and then formalize the roles such as secretary, treasurer. There could also be additional roles like member management, onboarding, community outreach. Like we can make roles, but those need to be formalized and then operationalized. So just saying like, oh yeah, I'm the outreach coordinator chair or whatever, but I don't know what that means and I don't really do anything, doesn't serve anybody well. But if we have the member onboarding role, then when somebody new comes to a meeting, if I'm the member manager, it's my responsibility to set a time with them to chat and see what they're interested in and see how they can contribute and ask if they have any questions about our projects or whatever. So what do you all think about leadership roles?
I think what you said was perfection.
What did I say?
It's a word.
Yeah.
I think what you said was perfection. I think that you have to kind of outline what people are doing, otherwise it becomes chaotic and a mess. And I definitely think having the co-chair is super egalitarian. I like that. And onboarding is important. You want it to grow, and you want the people who are coming in to kind of know what's going on, but also you can help to define how they interact and help them find their places that they want to interact. So that's why I said what you just said was it to me.
I think food and access needs a new treasurer.
You did everything that was asked of you, which was nothing.
Do these roles also need to have some kind of voting structure, or is it just like a nomination? I'm not one or the other, I don't know.
And we started brainstorming that, but then we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves because we wanted to see what these meetings got to. And honestly, we might need to have a committee to figure out what these next steps are for some of these unknowns. So we'll figure that out, but yeah, so.
Also, it would be good to kind of look at like how the other food systems, what they look like.
Yeah.
Or like other like community models to see what they're doing and what works. If it's beyond secretary, treasurer, like you said, community outreach person, onboarding person.
Do you guys see people nominating people or self-nominating for, like, are we voting for people to be a part of the leadership team, and then at that first leadership meeting we're voting for the roles, or are you running for a treasurer role?
Oh yeah, I guess we did talk about that.
What do you guys think about that?
I think the first.
You're running to be a part of the leadership, and then
right,
first
and then
leadership
the first
meeting.
leadership, right. Exactly.
And so that's literally how the BOCC, the Board of County Commissioners, do it. Is everyone gets elected, and at their very first meeting, they have something called a reorg, and they say, I nominate Savannah to be our chair, I second it, let's vote for Savannah.
And they figured that out on the day.
On the first day. On the first day. They literally, you get sworn in, and then you sit at the dais, and then you do that immediately.
But they probably know what's expected for those roles at that point too, so it's not a.
And it really is just chair and vice chair.
Okay.
And so the chair, the responsibilities of the chair are to set the agenda, and then to basically decide if they want to move on from a conversation, which is like setting the agenda.
Yeah.
So if we were to have a chair and a vice chair, then agenda items would be sent to the chair, and then the chair would say, yep, we'll put this on the agenda or not. And then if we spend too much time talking about something, then the chair could say, we're going to move on from this and move on. And then the vice chair really only is, they're just there in case the chair is not.
there. This one thing, I want to say about any future structure, I think of the working group should be structured as chair, vice chair. and these are meaningful positions with real leadership responsibility, because like you said, they set the agenda. And then that'll take away that, agenda setting from Homegrown Hillsborough, like for what Savannah does, that'll give it to, meaningful leadership to me, with responsibilities. And whatever you do, whatever structure we come up with, it should be, these people should be paid. They should be compensated for these positions.
Cool. Good.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on leadership roles? All right, so this next one is kind of a sticky situation, and it's, once again, not unique to us. Operational tools and logistics. So this goes to the question of how do we all work in one space? And when you have lots of organizations with different security protocols and different email addresses, it gets really hard. And I have not met somebody with a solution yet, so I don't know if we'll be able to think of it. What we did was we created a shared folder on Google, and we gave access to all the working group leaders. We then created a private platform page that was for the working group leaders. And then we also turned the existing platform pages from food production to the food production working group. And so that is where all the meetings were sent. And in theory, that's where notes should have been shared. They weren't. So our suggestion is to continue using a shared folder, just because I don't know what else there is for documents and Excel sheets and things like that. But to make a standard of communication that communications regarding the working groups, when they are a correspondence with the whole group, should be in the platform. And so like this morning, I saw that Michelle sent a reminder email saying, hey, everybody, we have a working group meeting, see you there. That, like, we should be trying to keep all of that on the platform, and everybody should respect the platform as a useful tool that they are receiving and staying on top of. Because I think we all have experienced times when this person's email wasn't included or is BCC'd or whatever. The platform is a way for people to opt in. I'm going to join this working group, and now I'm going to get all the communications related to this. You can also opt out if you choose to no longer be part of it. So we would really like to create, or we would suggest creating more policies about utilizing the platform to its fullest extent. Maybe we should even, on the platform, there is a way for somebody, in order to, before you can join a group, you can do an online training. So we can create an online module, and that module doesn't have to be hard. It can basically just be like, this is what our working group means. These are the different people in the roles. If you are joining this group, that means you're going to abide by our attendance policies, which are this, and they take it, they say yes, and then now they can get into the working group. And then from there, that's where all the meeting invites will be. That's where all the shared documents will be. That's where that's the membership directory will be. And so, like, for example, Joanna, she is going to go talk to the George Bartholomew Recreation Center. When she has that update, it really should go into the platform. And so I talked to Tom, and he said it costs $300. Everyone there in that group can see that. Versus just forwarding to Savannah, and then Savannah now has information, and she doesn't know who needs to see it and who doesn't. So yeah, that is what we would suggest, is continuing to use Drive as our way to do working active documents, but then communications would be on a working group platform page.
I love that idea.
Okay.
Is there a way to get the shared drive onto the platform?
Unfortunately, no. We can do links.
Yeah, so you can do a link to the shared drive.
I don't know why. Well, I don't know why, but we don't have access to Google Drive, and it was insane trying to get access. And they only let us go for a certain amount of time, so I don't have access to it anymore. I have to go through my personal account.
And
that's just a me thing.
And we
No, but it's not.
It's not even. The county's the same way. But like, I have a dummy Gmail that actually I use the well. So I have an alternative email, but that's why I have 15 email addresses is because of this. So it's just like, unfortunately, when you work for big institutions, I'm sure if you think of it the same way, they have security standards that don't want you in that. Yeah. We did try to think about what if we gave you all Google, like through the Homegrown Hillsborough Drive, we could give you all Gmail accounts, but then that would be on you to then have to like monitor that. Yeah, like so we didn't. Yeah.
To solve for the too many emails, we'll give you
Another email. Yeah.
But you can get more. Like I'm part of a society that I chair, and we have a membership directory, and I have everybody's Gmail for the Gmail tribe, and then their primary email address, because we communicate on one list, which is the list that goes into everybody's inbox. But when it comes to access and shared and whatever, it happens on that Gmail list, right?
Yeah, sometimes like I don't have access on my Gmail on my phone, so I'm like, oh, I missed that meeting on the Gmail. But
right.
Yeah,
so that
something like that.
We know that like invites need to get sent out to this list of people, this primary email address, but all access is really anyway. So
and really communication would be on the platform.
Yeah. Sure, but I'm just giving you an example of how you can manage. It's all about building the tool, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, it's all about building the process, but it can be done.
Is anybody else part of any other cross collaborative groups where they figured this out?
We use SharePoint, but that's Microsoft.
And the same thing. Yeah, people that have like professional institutions to have that, but if you don't, then I think it's equally as much of a pain in the butt. Yeah. No.
No.
Well, if you all do know people that are involved in like nonprofits or community work, go ahead and ask them what they're using to collaborate, because and I get it because security is important and blah 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 blah, but it does make it hard. And so this might be something that honestly takes a few passes. We because of our first rollout with these groups, we didn't want it to be too chaotic, and so we kind of just said Google Drive, we're gonna do it. Yeah. But like we are willing to try to find other tools, but everyone needs to have like their best attitudes about that, basically.
I like the common best attitude.
Yeah.
How many times you be like, oh, we're gonna use WhatsApp, and it's like, oh, I'll never use it.
I'll not download another app. Yeah.
So you're okay, never mind. Back to the Google Drive.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I'll have a group chat that half people can't get because they have iPhones and Androids and okay, this last one, compensation. So we heard earlier Regina kind of chime in about this. So how it was done here. Co-chairs were paid and expected to do 10 hours of work a month at $22 an hour. They had to submit a form to get paid. Other leaders were compensated through the opportunity of continuing education funding, but those dollars were largely underutilized. Working groups had a $15,000 budget for program or project administration. What we would suggest is that if we transition to one working group, then we have 5 leaders who all get paid a stipend. And then we'd also encourage to create a compensation system that enforces ownership, deliverables, and fiduciary accountability. So when you have a fiduciary responsibility of something, you are committing to being a steward of these dollars. Something that just because these are dollars that are funded through the BOCC, we want everyone to to treat them as if they were their own. And so how can we create a system that does that?
I want to address this because before I did on question 7, the leadership role, I talked about, these positions and real leadership responsibilities, getting paid for these things. Before I even saw 9, I didn't even see 9, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm right on it, and in your hey, let's pay. I love what you're saying here, and I agree 100%. And that, that's the way to go. That's what we're going to have to do in order to get others,
And so a paid position means that you are held to a higher standard. This is your job, and you are to fulfill the expectations of your job. When you are a volunteer, usually organizations are just so happy to have you there that they're not going to necessarily say, hey, you didn't do that on time, or you said you would do this and you didn't, or this isn't good enough. So holding holding people to that expectation of it is a job. Oh, we got low battery over there. Is there an easy way to plug that in? Okay.
It's the white one that's plugged into her laptop right now is a shared charger.
Oh boy.
Well, here, I
This
just
one.
want.
Oh, yeah, this one.
No, I think her laptop's charged now.
Yeah. This is why hyper meetings are hard. Here's the back.
Let me see.
Savannah, you left. You left and we were.
I was even just plugging into this. I needed to charge.
I think we're almost there too.
Yeah, we are almost done. But, so Regina fully supports compensation. What do other people think?
Yeah, I support it.
How are we judging deliverables?
What do you think?
Group is
I'm thinking there can be a bunch of agreed upon deliverables that you have to kind of fill out like a Google form and turn in.
And then who's reviewing the Google form?
Chair, vice chair. Oh, no. Do we not have a treasurer?
We do have or we can. We can have whatever we want. Yeah.
Not a fully formed thought, but that's something to work on.
5 is just for voting. You need an odd number. And 3 is like not enough people. So 5 is more people. And then when we were brainstorming roles, we were thinking, either co-chairs or chair, vice chair, and then secretary, and actually making secretary a 2-person role. So we can have a delineation of secretarial responsibilities. One that the secretaries fill right now, which is note taking in the event platform. But like some ideas for secretary work could be that technology person, right? The person maintaining the drives and the spaces. And then treasurer being that 5th. But those are just things we brainstormed is the 5. And for the voting sake, you want an odd number.
Yeah, you have to have an odd number. And so, the secretary roles were recording secretary, name TBD, but maintain notes, record roll call votes. And so that's something that we didn't really do this go around, but when we make decisions on anything, it needs to be a vote, and that vote needs to be what's called a roll call vote. So you go, Regina, yes or no. RJ, yes or no. Holly, yes or no. And then someone's recording that, and then those minutes are transcribed into our formal documents. Operationalize action steps along with, so we'll talk about this, billable hours in a moment. And then secretary number 2 would be attendance. And so this person is making sure that people there, they're marking them if they're on time or late. And then more specifically, they are making sure that those RSVPs are reflected on the platform. So when somebody has back-end access on the platform, I can go into events, and if I know that Tracy came to this working group meeting, I can go in and add and say she attended. And then that will help us with our data and all of that we can pull at a later time to say, our working group meeting increased from 6 people to 36 people. And we know that Tracy came to 8 of these meetings. Like that is worthwhile data. And so the attendance secretary would be responsible for making sure that the platform accurately reflects the attendance. Same thing for the opposite. If someone says they're coming and then they didn't, we can go in and say they did not come.
Which you can use in grants now too, as a way to, show engagement in order to win dollars and things like that.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about compensation? And it still wouldn't be everybody who attends the meeting, it would just be those voting members, right? Just to be clear that we don't have unlimited money in the world.
Yeah.
They're continuing it is a great benefit. I think it's really appealing.
Oh, yeah.
Especially people are knowing coming into it. And then I have no thoughts on the compensation for the PI. Seems like the right move.
The continuing ed piece, can we talk about that a little bit? Because it's been underutilized. We think it's really valuable, but we're getting to the end of our budget cycle every year, trying to drag people into continued education. What are some challenges around, maybe it's not as valuable as we think it is, or I'm hearing it is, but can we talk a little bit to continued education and maybe why it's being underutilized?
I feel like you probably just need more education around it. I think a few of our conversations was like people didn't know where to go or what it would entail. They can use it. I think Avery wanted to use it for like a public health conference and then the report back. The only one I attended was one that you guys recommended that I thought was really helpful. So probably maybe even having one of the roles assigned to like utilization of continuing ed, where they're constantly sharing out opportunities for the group.
That could be like a secretary or something like that.
Or even building partnerships, like Feeding Tampa Bay has a partnership with Nonprofit Leadership Center. They get a lot of sponsors. So FTB was sponsored to do classes for free. So if you guys had those partnerships or somebody was in charge of those partnerships to offer these and then cover the class, it'd be nice. Because I think it's hard just finding those extra opportunities and taking time to go to them.
Yeah, because I think one of the things with the continuing education, we got to make sure it fit within the mission of Homegrown. And a lot of the things that we thought we wanted to do did not. It was hard to justify them with the mission of Homegrown. And that's one of the things I think you had, Tracy. I'm sorry, not Tracy, Joanne, when you did your conference. And we talked about that.
Yes.
And it wasn't detailed enough to include what Homegrown mission, how we would include some of the. So my suggestion was to pass out the consent form, that was a support thingy around the conference and get some signatures, because a lot of them was from District 5, which is the area we're serving. But you said that. That wasn't, that didn't work. But, I don't know. We just need someone, maybe in a secretary role, like you're saying, to, get those classes, check, and have them posted somewhere so we can look at them and say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is where we want to go. So we don't have to try to figure out, would this be acceptable for the continuing education?
Good point, Regina. Really good point, Regina. And also, I think sometimes people have time constraints. Like if you have a full-time job, you may not know how you're going to fit that into your time. So I think that people think, oh, well, that's nice, but I can't do that now. So that may be a factor.
For those of you that work, when we talk about compensation for this role, obviously, if you're here on Feeding Tampa Bay time, you don't necessarily need it. I know for some organizations, they can still use it as like a fund, as part of your budget makeup. But for those of you that don't necessarily need to be paid to be here, correct me if I'm wrong, what is like an incentivizing, how do we maintain, we still want, you guys to be a part of leadership potentially, or, definitely be active members. So what is that? Why stay engaged, I guess, is my question.
It's my work plan.
Okay, yeah, work plan.
I have a food access, specific focus area, so, and I like you guys, so.
Yeah.
I was about to say, you guys definitely.
I want to find someone else that's work with.
Okay.
I agree. I think you guys are fulfilling a niche that isn't there. Niche. You guys are fulfilling a niche. That isn't really there in the community. So for my work specifically for policy systems and environmental change, there is that community engagement that I couldn't fulfill with other groups. I think the think tank through USF is similar to what you guys do. That fulfills one space, but not everything. So you guys are definitely in line with our strategic plan and just the person.
And I also like to grow and stuff. So it's surround yourself with like-minded people doing things that you enjoy. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Also on a personal note, I'm here because I enjoy it. There's
did your boss ask you to justify this time at all? Do they know you're here?
Yeah, they know I'm here. No, they don't ask me to justify it. It's it falls underneath my, I think, policy systems and environment access area. So now we just report back to the state what's going on in Hillsborough County. What we got going on. So
And that can be good to go back to the goal setting when we align with county regional resiliency plans, strategic plans, health department CHIP plans, right? Then we're aligning with paid professionals in those spaces to be part of the work too. Okay.
about 8 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was also going to mention, if people weren't going to get paid to do this, just making sure that grant opportunities would still be available, making sure it continue, education opportunities would still be available, so we are able to continue to help our community. Like I would still be, if I could get a grant to help 5 people in my neighborhood to start a small garden, I would
Mhm.
totally help them do that. So just things like that. There's a web on the Hillsborough platform, the Homegrown Hillsborough platform. They have us testing GrowWise.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's an excellent tool. So just still having access to that, and those are the types of perks, that are sometimes worth more than money
Great.
Mhm.
in my pocket.
Great.
Mhm.
Should I tell them about it then?
No, because it's on Spotify, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Want to get people excited?
All right. Any more thoughts about compensation?
I would also say if I were ever in a leadership role, take the money and put it to something like that.
And that's what people
not,
often
like,
say. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like people that are getting paid, they'll say like, I don't need to. be.
Yeah.
But it
I
does
think that's
prevent
what we
people from
did.
stepping into a leadership role.
That is
Because
true.
if you're not going to get anything extra, then like I'll just be secretary or well, and that's the deal. Is really right now we only had the co-chairs have responsibility and nobody else kind of did.
Yeah.
Except for the secretary who goes to events. But so if we create, basically, if you're a leader, you have work to do. And the level of work increases as you become closer to chair.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think we had, like, remind me if this is correct, we had, like, your org could sign off on you being here without getting paid, and then your org could also sign to say they wanted the money
Yeah.
for you, right? Because in some capacities,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
smaller nonprofits,
Yeah.
it's considered part of the fundraising, right? For you to then go to that meeting and things like that, which it should be, right? So
It's consultant kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So are some of the checks going to the organization that the person represents?
it's not the case for anything right
Okay,
now,
okay.
but like I'm thinking about. Pardon?
That was like in our original plan was like either get a letter of support or tell us like
That how you,
Yeah.
and then I think some orgs were like, we don't know how to take your money,
Yeah,
so
literally,
they just
literally.
were like,
We don't know how. We like this, but we don't know how.
Wow.
So,
yeah. So we're just give it to our individual and stuff
Interesting.
like that. So it kind of varied across the board, but most of our leadership roles are either like operators of other nonprofits, smaller nonprofits. Yeah.
All right, pals. Okay, real quick, actually, before we evaluate this meeting. Oh, is there? Oh, yeah, it's just the process. Yeah. So we're going through this process for the rest of the month with the other working groups. I don't know if I already posted the form. I think I did. If not, I'll make sure. Okay, I did. So we've had a really good start today. If you think of additional things that you want to contribute, you can add them there, but you have to complete the form because there are 2 other additional questions outside of these. They're very simple. They take 5 seconds to answer, but you have to complete the form no matter what. And then if you also have additional comments, you can leave those there. Then in September at the feedback and social, we'll talk about what we learned at the aggregate and propose some next step forward. And then we'll also celebrate the success of our first cohort of working group leaders. And we'll also evaluate whether we accomplished our goals or not, but we'll talk about more about that probably online. And yeah, a few other things that just to think about, and this is on that document, some things that we experienced that we did not talk about in depth today. Leadership turnover, we ultimately ended up with 71% of our original working group leaders. That's not terrible, but it's not great either. How can we get that closer to, we really only want people to roll off leadership if they've had like a life event come up that makes it so that they can't do it anymore. So what went wrong? The intention of these working groups is to promote collaboration across the Homegrown Hillsborough network. We think that it will serve us all better to spend more time talking about collaboration versus partnerships versus delivered or supported by. So some of those are more contracting roles. Some of those are actually everyone coming together to create a new mix of ideas and everyone contributing something. The effectiveness of these working groups, we have been using the PALs that we're about to do in a second, but there's also other meeting effectiveness inventory measures. So go ahead and click that link and follow those. Ownership of decision making, the balance between staff and the leaders, like I said earlier, really our goal is just to create a space for you all to lead. That is what we don't want to make any of the decisions. The less decisions we made, the better. We want you all to lead. responsibilities in between meetings, mission creep, and then ultimately we need to kind of talk about what a grievance or mediation or facilitation process looks like. So thank you for being part of this. And now Savannah will get your PALS scores.
All right, first one, participation. Did people participate? 1 through 5. Regina? 5. How would you rate this? 5. All right. RJ?
5.
And Holly? 5. All right. Achievement. What did we accomplish? Regina? Did we accomplish our stuff?
We finished our feedback. 5.
RJ? 5. Holly? 5. All right. Listening. Were people focused and mindful? What do you think, Regina?
5.
5.
5. Last one. Did we stick to our agenda and use our time wisely? Regina? You think so?
Pretty good. 5.
It's 1:58.
5.
All right. RJ?
Yeah. 5.
All right. Thank you very much. That's all I've got.
Okay. Well, that ends our meeting.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being part of this. We'll see you all in September. And Tracy, even though you're not a leader, we'll invite you as well because you're a part of it. I think we should. We'll open it up to the whole network. So
Yeah, exactly. The network.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye, all.
Bye, guys.